Episode number 92 of the Minding Your Business podcast is brought to you by the Binge Podcast Network. The Binge! Yes, www.onabinge.com. That's the move you need to make. Still growing, still getting recommendations from people in terms of people interested in podcasting. They got existing podcasts, they got new podcasts, and we're just excited just to even be considered for that opportunity. So, man, I'm pumped up, man. I had a really good week. I'm having a really good day. I hope that you are as well. Had something I was working on today that I thought was going to take me through the weekend and actually got done in the 10 o'clock hour Central Time. So I'm extremely pumped up and psyched about that. The Binge is myself and Dominic Lawson of Owls LLC and the Startup Life podcast. Shout out to my girl Alex with Art Life Connections. That's who you need to look up. Just redid my logo for the show. I posted it yesterday just as an unveiling. Just phenomenal to work with, phenomenal graphic designer. If you need logo work, graphic design work, you need to connect with Alex. Again, very professional, very reasonable, and did just a phenomenal job on kind of refreshing our brand look with that. So shout out to her. Legacy Living Real Estate Partners, buy a home, sell a home, live a legacy. You need to go to Legacy Living Real Estate Partners, .com. Legacy Living Real Estate Partners.com. We're in episode number 92. I've got a phenomenal guest that's going to be joining me. But first, y'all know what we do.
What we do here is go back.
Oh, yeah. So, again, I'm your host, Champ Ron. This is the Minding Your Business podcast. Entrepreneurship, real estate, trending news. There is no business like minding your own. Today's May 3rd, 2019. I'm coming to you from Memphis, Tennessee, here in the United States of America on the planet Earth. And I'm so excited, I'm so elated for you to be joining me, whether you're listening to this as a recorded podcast. You can subscribe, listen, and share on all the major podcast networks, whether you're on Spreaker Live or whether you're on Facebook Live. Shout out to everybody that's live with me on today. I hope you had a marvelous week. I hope you got a chance to enjoy Avengers Endgame and everything else that's going on personally and professionally. I got a chance to see Endgame myself and on last Saturday. Really enjoyed it. Great family time and whatnot. So, again, I'm hoping you're ready for some knowledge. I want to introduce today's guest on the Minding Your Business podcast. And this particular brother, he posted something on Facebook that just blew my socks off. It was the entrepreneur game. And you don't see oftentimes many brothers and sisters that are completely innovative in that manner. But this is a brother. This is one of the top sought after speakers anywhere. And it is, truly an honor for him to take time out to join us, MYB. Yeah, EE Speaks, the entrepreneur game, sought after ownership, in business all around. And when he agreed to come on the show, man, I was just floored, man. I couldn't even believe it. I couldn't even believe he responded to my email. This is a very accomplished brother, man, very accomplished man. And I am extremely excited and honored to be able to introduce Mr. Elliott Eddie. Mr. Eddie, are you there, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's a pleasure to be here with you, brother, for real.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you on. And people are live on Spreaker.com. They're live on Facebook. So they're checking it out, man. They're interested in hearing from you. So are you ready to talk to the Minding Your Business community?
I'm ready to roll.
Oh, man, I know you are. I know you are, man. So listen, Elliott, let's kind of start, a little bit from the beginning, man, with your background. You're a very accomplished young man, and and I say that because you've hit on a number of different fields and a number of different things when you study your background. But for people that aren't familiar with you, man, who's Elliott Eddie?
Well, I am a simple guy who grew up in the Bronx, in the South Bronx, in the '80s. Well, the end of the '70s and the '80s. Today, I am an entrepreneur. I am a speaker. I do a lot of different things. I was one of those children who grew up in the public schools back when they had different things like art classes and dance classes. So at an early age, I was able to express myself. When I was going to church, I would get into all of the church plays, and I learned how to express myself. But over the years, I found that as I was growing up, the world wasn't as open to me as I thought they should have been. For example, as I was growing up, a lot of people look at my size. Now, I'm about 6'4", about 270 pounds, give or take a few, depending on what time of the year it is.
Right.
But everybody, when they saw me, they would just see this big guy. So, of course, most of the jobs that I was expecting, either service or labor related, it was hard for me to get a corporate job. So it was hard for me to get a job that would allow me to exercise my mind. It was usually my body. And after a while, I decided that, there's more to me than just my size. So I started looking into other things. I started reading a lot. I started finding out, all of the possibilities that were out there. I would read fiction. I would read nonfiction, American fiction. I would do the Greek. I would go everywhere and just get information. And what it did is it helped me expand my mind some. And then I learned that I had a great mind, so I started wanting to do something that I could get paid based off of the skills and the talents that I brought to the table. I tried it out in sales. That wasn't really it, although it did give me some independence. It was still a job. So all of my life, this was developing into something of me wanting to have something for myself. So what I would do is I would see things that people were doing, and if I thought it was something interesting, and if I thought I would like it, I would research it, I would study it, and then I would try it. So, I failed at 100, oh my goodness, I can't tell you how many times I failed. But I was always willing to give it that try. And then eventually I found some things that worked out pretty well for me. And that's how I developed into the person that I am today. Just going out there and trying and keep pressing and trying.
Yeah, I mean, and you're getting a lot of amens and stuff, especially from our folks here at Spreaker.com, particularly around when you're saying about, trying things and failing. I'm the same way, Elliott. I've tried and I've failed at many things in business, and they were great lessons, and that's part of what's kept me in the game. So, for you, let's kind of start with your speaking opportunities, because I've seen videos of you. You're on YouTube. You're kind of around. I mean, you deliver some great gems. So, as you're getting into, trying things and getting around that perception of, how people would look at you based on your size and that sort of thing, and maybe thinking that you should be in athletics or you should be in this and that, and they kind of put you in this box, right? How did you transition into your speaking engagement where you're influencing and you're inspiring the way that you do?
That's a great question.
Hey, Elliott, I think we lost you, brother. Or unless you hit mute. We're going to get Elliott right back.
Yes, sir. Are we there?
Yes, sir. You are here. Yes, sir.
Oh, man, they're not going to stop this information from getting out today.
No, we're not going to let them stop it. We don't let them stop nothing, brother. We going to keep this thing rolling. That's what we do here on Minding Your Business. We keep it moving. Yes, sir. Yes, but no, go continue, please.
Well, I found out that no matter what it is that you want to do, whether it's business, no matter what it is that you want to do, learning to speak well is going to be tied to that at every level. Myself, I grew up and I started doing some theater. Theater was great for me because it allowed me to begin to express myself, whatever I thought, whatever I said, to say it the way I wanted to say it. One of the things they told us in theater is not about the words that you say, it's about how you convey your message. And then reading a lot, between theater and then learning and then reading, because really my vocabulary expanded just through basic reading. Reading stories. The more you expose yourself to words, the more you expose your vocabulary. to increase. The more you expose yourself to these books, the more your imagination begins to expand and gives you ideas of things outside of the box, things that you never would have thought of that you can relate to yourself. So as I was going along, between theater and between reading and just with my friends, being able to say, no, I don't like this, I want to drink tea with my pinky finger up, just being able to express what I thought was important to me.
Right.
It began to catch on, and I began to enjoy it. And then I started understanding that no matter what a person saw, when they saw me, no matter how big I was, how tall, how many pounds, as soon as I began to open my mouth, that's when really the thought was going to be derived of who I was or what they thought about me, whether I was someone who had some sort of intelligence or whether, I knew how to enunciate words. All of the things that people really think towards you, because they'll see you, but they still don't know you until they begin to hear you express yourself.
Right,
and
exactly.
That's when they begin to understand who you are, what makes you different and unique from someone else. So it was that experience and learning that and enjoying it. And then I came to Virginia, and I joined an organization called Toastmasters.
Yes.
Toastmasters International. Are you familiar with it?
Yes, I'm actually a member of, shout out to Givers Gain. That's our chapter here in Memphis. But yes, I'm actually a member. So yeah, absolutely.
Hey, well, Toastmasters was a great thing. It was a great thing for me because it helped me in a lot of areas. I had a tendency to run on in my sentences, to repeat a lot of things, to do a lot of uhs and ahs, and, just a lot of things that really could have been tightened up for me to be effective in speaking, and letting someone know what was on my mind. So I joined Toastmasters, and that's how the start of my professional speaking career began. I didn't even know I wanted one. Didn't know I was capable of having one. All I knew was I went in there and I did the work. When it was time for me to speak, I put together something that was important to me, something that I thought was of value that I could share with someone else.
Right.
And as I kept doing that and being honest, I got into a few competitions and won a few competitions and then realized that, hey, maybe I can share something with the world.
Yep, exactly. And so how did you become, as you're growing that, Elliott, how did you become sought after? Because I think a lot of people, I come across a lot of people that, they want to be speakers and, that sort of thing. And I always go back, and I talked about this last week, was, what's your motivation? Because I think a lot of people, they want to get into speaking because they want to be well known. They want, they love the sound of their voice, and that sort of thing. But they don't really know what the value is that they bring. And it sounds like you developed that pretty early, which I think, could help propel you. So how did you go from getting started in speaking to, as you get your first, kind of opportunities to speak? And I think a lot of people struggle with that, is how do I get, lifted? How do I compel people to want to book me for their events and their conferences and things like that, so I can share what it is that I believe that I could share of value?
Yeah, well, speaking is just like any other business you would start in. If you're going to be a speaker, you have to speak. When I joined a competition called the World Championship of Public Speaking, did pretty well in it. But here's the thing: when I was waiting to go out to that competition, and I knew I had won my position maybe a few months before the actual World Championship competition started, what I did is I went out and I spoke. I would call up clubs, I would call up different people, and I would say, hey, do you mind if I come out and I give you, I give a presentation? And I would do a 5 to 7 or a 7 to 10 minute presentation. When I didn't have any competitions coming up, I would call other places, call other clubs, and say, hey, I wrote something down that I want to present. Can I come over and present it? See, mostly speaking, first of all, I think in speaking, some of the best speakers that I consider some of the best are the most honest speakers. Those
yes.
that walk with an air of truth, not trying to put on airs, not trying to say I'm the guru of speaking and you all should listen to me. No, it's really people who have learned, who have gone through something, have learned a valuable truth, and honestly want to share that information with other people so that they can, overcome, and they can, bypass some of the mistakes and the things that slow you down and really overcome and begin to see the possibilities. That is, to me, that is speaking. So I grew up in the comic book era, so my favorite comic was Spider-Man. It's real corny, but he had that line, with great power comes great responsibility.
Right.
But I think you have to take that responsibility first before you can even get power. And what I learned during the process is there were times where I just wanted to speak. I wrote down something clever. I thought it was clever and very well put together. I would go out and I would say it, and people were like, "Oh yeah, that was great. That was nice." But it never hit home. It didn't have those people coming back saying, "You know what? That right there changed my life. It gave me another way of looking at something." And I think that's what's important. I think all of us have the ability to be a speaker at some level or another. It's just really about connecting to that truth that's inside of us and then learning how to express that to someone else for the purpose of building someone up.
Yeah, exactly. And you hit on something that I think is a really good best practice, Elliott, which is understanding that truth. And again, I think that separates people who do it from a hobby standpoint to people who want to build a business in being a public speaker is you've got to hone into what's your story. And again, I always harken back to what's your motivation, what's your story. So if whatever topic that you're speaking on, what's your story behind it? Not just because you saw Elliott do it and now you want to do it. You know what I mean? Like you got to be, what's your motivation and that sort of thing. So again, today's guest is Elliott Eddy joining us, and we definitely appreciate him doing so. So yeah, Elliott, let's transition a little bit. We talked about your speaking career and that sort of thing and how that's continuing to grow and flourish. Tell me about the entrepreneur game, because again, I've seen, some different things that have come to the marketplace. I haven't seen anything from people of color in this level of innovation. I haven't seen that yet. Now, I could be completely wrong, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I haven't seen anything really like it. So can you explain for those who haven't been exposed to it to see it, what is the entrepreneur game and what's the purpose of it? What, if someone buys it, what can they expect?
I would love to. I love the concept of this game as well, besides trying to be unbiased. But the entrepreneur game is a family-centered board game for children and for adults that teaches the concepts and teaches the skills of entrepreneurs. All right, so you start out by creating a brick and mortar or a home-based company, and then your objective is to grow your business into an empire through marketing, investing, negotiating, and decision-making, and all that while avoiding bankruptcy. Now, the real gist of why I wanted to do this is because there's not enough information about entrepreneurship. There's not enough, especially not for our children and not for a lot of our adults, not understanding the concepts of business, and that goes for people across the board. And what I wanted to do was create a fun way that would teach people what it's like to name a business, to grow it from conception until it is actually grown, it's actually a tangible business, and then how to make decisions for that business along the way. A lot of times we go out and we do things and we get discouraged because we get thrown aside. We get a side ball thrown our way, and we don't really know what to do. But this is a way that we could do all of that in the comfort of our own home, start that business, work that business, make decisions, take a loss when you need to take a loss, but figure out how to bounce back after that loss, and do it in a way that we're not really taking a huge risk while we're learning. We're not losing real money while we're learning. So I really wanted this to be something for children and adults to get their feet wet, their first experience at running their own business.
Yeah, and Elliott, one of the things that I love about what you just explained was the learning piece. I think for children or for adults, one of the things that's I think happened with entrepreneurship, and I think a lot of it was bred out of, one, you had the rise in technology along with the downturn in the economy of 2008. And I've always said this on the podcast, so MYB's heard this 1,000 times. I think a lot of entrepreneurs are really vigilante entrepreneurs. And I say that there are folks that their entrepreneurship was driven from the pain of being laid off or fired from a job. And so they did, right. And so they developed the entrepreneurship bug. In some cases, just out of necessity, because they still had household debts and student loan debt, all those kind of things, living expenses that had to be paid, and so they decided they wanted to rid the world of evil, one tax ID number at a time. And so I think a lot of people, did that, but they didn't really learn. They learned on the fly, so it was a lot of what you call in corporate, a lot of OJT, on the job training when it came to starting their business. And, I'm still certainly guilty of that, getting out there and, it'll have been nice to have more of a training ground for starting a business as opposed to having to learn it real time on the fly. And I've got 3 young daughters, Elliott. So I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, well, man, that'd be great for them at 9 and 8 and 7 years old to begin learning, how to formalize the business. And it, like you say, in that kind of, safe haven environment, such that they can make the mistakes and kind of learn and ask the questions and things like that. Such that when they get of age and they look to start a business, they have some level of experience already, because even if it's through the game, it's just like you mentioned about reading. You develop your vocabulary and you develop your reading skill set and your speaking skill set by reading, and reading often. And I think the game provides that same thing. And so I love what you said with that. And so, what's kind of the step of that? I mean, are there different versions of the game, or is it kind of just one game and it fits everybody, and like a family like me can purchase a game or two and we could all play it together, or how do you see that?
That's what's fun about this game. It really brings you back to the days of when families got together and played games all together. That's exactly what this is. Now, when we were going out to test market this and get with the people's opinions, we would have full out adults, I'm talking 60, 50, 40s, 50s, and 60s, playing with children 10, 12, and 14. All of them playing together, having fun, but everybody learning something from each other. And to be honest with you, in a lot of cases, the younger kids were usually the winners. I don't know how that happened,
right?
Much to the chagrin of the adults. But the good thing was, you got to see some of the imaginations of the adults that you never would have thought of with some of these businesses that have been hidden in their hearts and they never had a chance to voice in any other way. These children, as they're watching the adults play and they're making decisions and they're learning while they're playing, wanting to make the proper decisions, because, children want to win and they want to beat you and they want to have all the money and they want all the property. So just being able to see them grow, just being able to see some of these questions. And a lot of the questions are interactive as well, which is one of the things that makes it fun. So it's not just about rolling the dice and moving around the board. You have to actually answer questions. You have to make decisions. There are 4 decks of cards that go from big business to losses to marketing. If you hit a loss card, you're about to take a loss of some sort, in which we know in business there's always losses. But the question is, how do you handle that loss and still put yourself in a position to move forward? So the children are watching the adults do it. The adults are watching the children. They're conversating in the midst of it, and they're laughing and having fun. So the purpose of the game is getting through. I've had some parents say that their children continuously play it, and the one who hates math the most wants to play it the most. So this is doing something different that that these handheld games, these video games, is just not touching. And they're learning. Even though it's fun and you want to win, they're learning something. They're learning the concepts of the possibilities of what could happen, how to put things together. One other story: I had my neighbor. Their children were playing. They have the oldest daughter she's 14 now. She was 13 at the time.
Okay.
When we played. She's an artist. At that age, she draws beautifully, and she would draw big paintings. Just big pieces, charcoal art and all that. She would draw those big pieces, and then she would try to sell those pieces, and she could get a couple of dollars for them. After playing the game, her dad came back to me and said, "You know what? My daughter came to me the other day, and she realized after playing the game, instead of selling this big piece one time, why don't she make a copy of the piece and sell the copies for a little bit less, but she can sell a whole lot more of those?" These are things that are coming to children, and they're learning. They're learning to be innovative, and I just love hearing these stories.
And, Elliott, you spoke of innovation. One of the things I love about that is the critical thinking, because when you're looking at that, that's the critical thinking that it takes in business ownership and in entrepreneurship, and even in high level careers. Whether it's at the director, or executive level, even in a workforce career, is you got to have that level of critical thinking. And so to be able to instill that in children, and listen, brother, I agree with you wholeheartedly that as much as innovation from a digital standpoint is so big, what I love about this is you've taken kind of something that's kind of been forgotten in this country, which is that old school game. I remember, some of my earliest memories with being at home with my mother when I was young, going back even before school age. Some of my earliest memories were me and her sitting and playing games like Life and Trouble and Uno and Monopoly and all those type of things. And, she would beat the hell out of me sometimes. And, I wanted to be competitive and things like that. But she was teaching me how to compete. Right? And how to think through my moves. I mean, she began teaching me checkers and chess and that sort of thing, and how to even think through my moves and what am I willing to give up, you know what I mean, to get to the next place. And I think kids miss that when all you have is just a phone or a remote controller or an iPad. You miss a lot of that ability. You can get a lot of things in real time and, less costly and things like that. But I don't think anything beats what you're talking about with the entrepreneur game. And I'm thinking about for myself. I'm 38. I've put six-figure money into businesses. I've I've invested in other things. I've had some things that have gone very well. I've had some things that didn't go well, and again, those lessons. But to me, I feel like I'd get something out of it today at 38 years old. And it's funny you say that about the kids beating the adults, because the kids have those innovative, creative minds where for some reason, when we become adults, we get we can get closed-minded and dogmatic about principle, whereas kids don't operate in principle. They operate in, okay, here's what I see, what do I think, and where can I see my next move? And so that's funny. I'd love to. I mean, to me, my gears are turning, man. It's almost something I'd want to host. I'd like to get several of the games and just host a game night with it.
Yes. And those are fun. Let me tell you, those game nights are fun.
Yeah, I mean, just to do a game night and invite people out and maybe have a prize or two. Now I'm saying this now. No, don't y'all run off and take my idea now. I'm talking to these folks on NYB. No, I'm just kidding. If somebody does it, invite me. I'd love to come out and support it and promote it. So I'm being facetious. But our guest today, Elliott, and he's given some great value, some great feedback, some great nuggets for you. So I'm hoping you're taking this down. So, Elliott, how do you balance everything that you're doing, right, with your family? Because I know family is important to you. How are you balancing this, with the Mrs. and, with your entire family? Because, as you know, being a business owner, entrepreneur, it takes a lot of time. There's a lot of investment of time and resources and things like that. So, how do you find that you balance those?
That's really a great question because I do a lot of different things. Even in the businesses, I have about 5 businesses that I run. And what I do is there's 2 things. Number one is you have to state what's important to you. What is number 1? What is number 2? What is number 3? For me, you have to state what's important to you, so you know that you have to make time for those things. Now, me myself, I have an actual physical schedule book. Not online, not through my phone, but I have an actual physical schedule book where I print out every year, every month, every day. I print out the day, and I'll put about 5 or 6 lines on it. So for me, it's about time management, knowing how to utilize your time to the fullest. So, for example, a lot of people will say, they'll find something that they want to do, and they say, well, there's just not enough hours in the day, or, I just don't have any time left to do it. And my attitude is, you make time to do the things that you want to do. So
right.
If you want to do it, you're going to make time. That means sometimes that might mean you don't sleep a little, you sleep a little bit less, or sometimes you have to get up a little bit earlier, but you make time. So for me, for my family, for my religion, all of those things are non-negotiable. I have to make time. those things go on my schedule right off the back. And then the things that I want to do, first of all, I have to judge what do I need to do. Besides those things, you need to keep these bills paid because they come every single month.
Right.
So it's always, man, no breaks. When you pay one, 2 weeks later, the next one is in. You think,
right.
Didn't I just pay this?
Right.
So you have to get in. So you have to be, you have to have enough discipline to say, okay, when it's time to work, it's time to work. I'm going to do these things. And I write them down one by one, and I make sure that I'm accountable, that every single day I cross off the things that I did. And the things that I didn't do go back on to the next day. But to me, it's about time management. You state what's important, you state what you have to get done, and then you figure out the time to make sure you can get it done. Fortunately for me, I've had a tax business, so in the beginning of the year, I'm usually doing taxes, which now the entrepreneur game is doing well, so I'm planning on dropping that business. But anyway, I have the tax business, so first 4 months, I know that's what I'm doing. I have the speaking, so I know outside of tax business, I can put my speaking, I can schedule those well in advance.
Yeah.
And then everything else that I'm doing, like the real estate, I'll just do that as I see things happening that I can tag on to. Now, with the entrepreneur game coming out in January, of course, all of that has been refocused because that is the most important thing right now. Not just for sales, but just to make sure that people understand that there's something out there that is of benefit to them that can help them live a better life. So, yeah, it's really about time management.
Yep.
About, saying what's important and then managing your time well.
Yep, excellent. And so you mentioned that the entrepreneur game, when does it come out? I know you were mentioning January.
Oh, yes, it came out in January.
Okay.
January 7th.
Okay,
it's
gotcha.
Live in the world.
Yep, so it's live right now. So how can people get it if they want to be able to get their hands on the entrepreneur game? How can MYB do that?
Yes, sir. That is a most excellent question. You can get the entrepreneur game. You can get tons of information about it off the website. The website is www.entrepreneurboardgame.com. Just entrepreneurboardgame.com. I'd like to keep it simple.
Yep, there it is. That's as simple. It don't get no simpler than that. So www.entrepreneurboardgame.com. So MYB
yes,
community, I expect you starting today and over the next several days to go connect with Elliott and get you a copy of this game and play it with your children, play it with your grandchildren, with your significant other. Engage in this and then provide feedback back to Elliott as to how it's received and that sort of thing. That always helps any business owner with continuous improvement, right? And so let's make sure that we're supportive in that regard. So if you go to Target and you'll go buy Life for the 10th time, or you'll go buy a deck of cards for Uno and that sort of thing, make sure that you also get the entrepreneur game. And let's show Elliott that we can be supportive. So I encourage you to do that. EntrepreneurBoardGame.com. All right. So Elliott, talk to me. You mentioned a little bit about real estate. So what do you do in real estate?
I buy and sell distressed properties.
Okay.
I do something called, and I'm going to share this information because not many people know about this, and it's going to take work to carry it on, but for you enterprising people, pay attention. I do something called tax sales. There are two different types of tax. There's a tax sale and there's a tax lien.
Right.
Some states are tax lien states, some states are tax sales. Virginia is a tax sales, which is a little different from lien. What that means is that in the state of Virginia, if you, and this is in all tax lien states, in the state of Virginia, if you don't pay your real estate taxes for 2 years or more, they have the right to take your house, put it up for auctions, and sell it for pennies on the dollar. What I do is I go to those auctions. I buy the properties for the pennies on the dollar. I fix them up, and either I sell them or I rent them out. Just to give you an idea how lucrative it could be. Maybe about 2 years ago, I purchased a property in Petersburg, Virginia. 4-bedroom, 2-story, 2-bath, quarter-acre land. I spent $3,000 on the house. Fixed it up, sold it at an auction, and got many, many, many times more than that. So that's what I do in real estate. I don't do it always. I do it as I find properties that come up that fall into whatever amount of capital I have at that time, and I purchased it. So that way I own it right out. So if I sell it, and from the way I grew up, you make money when you buy, you lose money when you sell. So my goal is to buy it and to fix it up and then rent it out, because that way I keep all of the equity that's in it, and I get the monthly cash flow. When you sell it once, that money's going to go, because money is currency. It flows. It flows to you. It flows away. Can't keep that.
Yep, definitely. And so that's why, even with me as a real estate investor, what I've started, I recently rebranded my company Legacy Living to Legacy Living Real Estate Partners. And those listening to the podcast, you heard me mention it at the start of the show. But what I do is I buy on terms. And so I typically work with buyers who have been impacted by some life event, either a divorce, a job relocation, a job loss. They inherit a property, they got a judgment or a lien, they can no longer pay the mortgage, they've got 2 mortgages, whatever that is, Elliott, and I buy on terms. So it's documentation. It's the same way people bought houses before the mortgage, right? Most people can't, they don't understand real estate, so they only think the mortgage is a 20th century product for the most part. And so so how did people buy property for the first 10,000 years of existence? And so they did that through terms. And so I buy on terms, and then I work with tenant buyers, folks that are the same way. They've been impacted by usually a life event. In some cases, they've owned property in the past, but again, a divorce, a death, a job loss, a job relocation, a reduction in salary, whatever it is that's impacted them, where they want to buy, and they don't want to perpetually rent, but they're kind of caught in the middle, which is a lot of people, self-employed people that have a hard time. The mortgage company wants you to come with a stack of documents and then to prove your income. And then if you can't do that, you won't get approved no matter what your credit score and all that kind of stuff is, right? And so some of these folks have been impacted where they make good money. Their credit's been impacted. But they pay, most people, even in the worst of the downturn in 2008, even if the delinquency rate on a mortgage was 8%, that still means that 92% of people were paying their mortgage on time. You know what I mean? So that's still a great business to be in, right? If that's the worst of it. So what I found is that there are a lot of people that want to buy, Elliott, but they're just not in position. So I like to connect them to resources. Shout out to my guy, Deverett Watson with Credible Concepts. Ursula Woods, a closing attorney. And what I like to do is help those buyers get mortgage ready, and doing that by allowing them to lease purchase homes that we buy. So we buy very quick, no cash, no credit, none of that, all on terms. And so then they're able to go through the credit rebuilding program and that sort of thing, get connected with a mortgage professional so that they know exactly what they need to get approved. That's the homework that they have. We help them do that, and then we get them approved to be able to buy. And when I do that, there's essentially 3 paydays. There's a initial non-refundable kind of deposit. There's the monthly spread between the mortgage and what they pay in rent. And then there's a payout at the closing when they close. And everything's based on the spreads. And so that original seller is able to move on quickly. They don't have to worry about doing a bunch of repairs to the house or all this type of stuff. They get a peace of mind. And then, of course, the tenant buyer gets to go from being a renter to an owner with in a good equity position. And then for me, I get 3 paydays on every deal, which is different than being a real estate agent where I do a bunch of work, and then if there's no closing, nothing happens. Or most any other forms of real estate, wholesaling, that's basically a job. So that's been working very well for me, and I'm looking to build that and build the coaching piece around it to share with people exactly what I'm doing, right down to the documentation, the attorney prepared docs. And so I'm sharing that with people as well. So I love to hear what you're doing in real estate. I think it's very much needed. And that's how we go back and take ownership of what's rightfully ours as a people. is by getting involved in real estate. So shout out to you on that.
Appreciate that. Yeah, there's a lot of different ways to make money in real estate.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Tell me about it, sir.
Yeah.
Yep,
yeah.
no doubt.
A lot of people think it's beyond them. You know, and see, that's the thing, you know, and there's one of my mentors, his name is Peter Gattner. And one of the things he tries to make sure he stresses to me and a few other people is mindset. You know, it's really about your mindset.
It is.
You know, you can cause yourself to go ahead and to do something and to obtain something if you have the mindset that you're going to have it. But if you leave it and you're kind of lazy with it and you don't really attend to the things that you should be, then your mindset is what's going to kill you. You know, everybody, you know, more than one person can do the same thing, but it's going to be the one that has that strong mindset that will not let it be denied. That's going to, you know, that's going to go ahead and achieve it and do well with it.
Yeah. Well,
all of the things we do, everybody can do. All of your listeners can do the same things that we're talking about here, and everything that we've seen people do.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah. Matter of fact, not only can they do it, they could be even better than what I do. You know, the deal is
yes,
like you say, it's the mindset, Elliott. It's, you know, I'll tell people, you know, like for instance, my coaching is only now. I've spent thousands of dollars on coaching. I've been ripped off. I've had people tell me they'll sell me a bag of goods. I've had guys that are highly academic that come and tell you, they don't tell you how to do deals. They just tell you a few bullet points and then they try to upsell you to the next level. You know, I've told people, man, listen, I'll give you the whole playbook. You know them folks, man. I said, man, listen, I'll give you the whole playbook for $275. That includes the document. All you got to do is put your logo on it. Take it to your attorney, have them look at it. These are the documents I use to buy houses. I don't run my credit. Nobody's running my credit. I'm not getting no loans. You know, I'm not sitting around with, like guys, they run around and get these loans now that are like 8 months payback and daily draws and all this type of stuff. Like, man, listen, we're not playing that game, man. It's 2019. Listen, let me show you. You don't have to do all that. You know, but Elliott's to that point. There's always some reason or excuse as to why they can't do it. But then they'll call you and say, when they're having, when there's some problem or some dire issue. But it's like, man, you could avoid that by just take the lead. Don't worry about being perfect. Don't worry about, none of that stuff. Or, mama go say this. Well, mama only understands what she understands. You know what I mean? She'll understand good when you put the money in her hand. She ain't gonna be questioning whether you went to school or not. You put that money in her hand. You know what I mean? Yeah, but until you do that, no, she only knows what she know. Daddy only gonna know what he know. You know what I mean? And what he's been exposed to. So I try to tell people these things. To try to. It's like, man, come walk. Listen, on the coaching, I've got recorded calls. Like, man, I don't know what to say. Man, listen, I've got the script. I've got the recorded call to tell you exactly what to say. Print it off, call the person, and say this. You know what I mean? Just that simple. Yeah. But like you say, it's a mindset thing. People only know what they know, and anything else is foreign to them. And that's why I love the entrepreneur game, that concept, and what you're saying, because it just goes, so much further into the mindset. That's what holds people back. It's not the money. It's not the credit. It's not, well, I was born in the hood, or, my daddy didn't stick around, or, my mama wasn't this, and I wasn't this way in school. Forget all that. Right now, today is the mindset. And that's my thing.
Right. Because all of that, that might pepper your particular story for some reason, but it still comes back to, what are you going to do with this information right in front of you?
Right.
And what are you going to do? And, when we talk about the entrepreneur game, one of the things that I want to bring out about it is how it grows with you. So, for example, no two games will ever be alike. No two games will ever be alike, because you're going to have different places you step on, different cards that you have to make decisions, different amounts of money. But here's what grows. The entrepreneur game, even though it's set up for 2 to 6 players, you can play with 12 people. What would be the difference in going in with 6 sets of teams?
Right.
And we're going to look as a team. I'm not going to play this game. Just the mindset. Just different ways to try to accomplish a goal. make it a little bit more difficult for yourself because we never know what's going to happen. And one of the things that I like about it is that in order to succeed and excel in the game, at some point you're going to have to communicate with someone. You may even have to negotiate a deal. You may even have to go into business with someone. We had a couple of kids playing, and it was the sisters. I think the sisters were like 14 and 13 and 16, and the young brother, the young boy, I believe he was 6 or 7. Now they had to help him with his money, but he was very well. Did very well with his comprehensive. The fun thing about it is while they're going around and saying, "Hey, I'm going to build these other businesses, and I'll have 4 or 5 businesses," he had a steady course. He kept his steady course. He didn't want to spend any money on anything. He didn't have to spend money on them, and he wanted to collect them. He wanted to make money. And by the end, probably by the halfway through the game, the oldest child that was on there, she was asking him for loans so that she didn't have to go into bankruptcy, which is something that you can do as well. As long as anything that you can do in the real world, you can do in this game, which is why I like it so much, because it's really based on life. So she would end up borrowing money from him. Going back to the story, she would borrow from the young man, and he would make tons of money just making a deal. You give this, you can pay me back, but you're not paying me X amount of percent interest. So just learning the different things that you can do in business and how to goal them, how to jump over them, how to deal with them. What if you're on your block and for some reason the water main breaks?
Right.
There's water all over the streets. The city comes in and they put up the barricades. Everybody thinks your business is good, but it's not. So there are so many scenarios that it puts you in the mindset. Well, by the time you finish, you'll be saying, "Hey, I ran this business successfully because I'm a millionaire." Well, here's the problem. If you become a millionaire, then everybody else in the game has to say your name, has to say you are an incredible entrepreneur. Please teach me your business.
Yeah, I like that at the end. So that's part of your bragging rights there. Yeah, so no doubt about it. So, Elliott, what are, a couple best practices that you'd like to share as we're wrapping up? What's a couple things that you share with, whether people are, in the workhouse and they're wanting to become an entrepreneur, they've got an idea, they've got dreams, but can't seem to get over the hump, to the people that want to get started, but they're strung out in debt, and they just don't see their way, or, maybe people that have been in business and they've taken a few losses and, they're just trying to figure out, what's a couple best practices that you'd share with those folks?
Okay, well, here would be my top 3. First of all, realize that before it takes money, it doesn't take money. What I mean by that is, we get stopped in the beginning because we say, "Oh man, well, I don't have the money to do this, or I don't have the money to do that." Before you even get to a money stage, you have a planning stage, which when you sit down and actually think out, what is it that you want to do? Why is it that you want to do that? Who are you going to be reaching? Even if it's a lemonade stand, why do you want to sell lemonade? Who's going to buy your lemonade? You start thinking of the basics, because once you start thinking of the basics, then that opens your mind up to get ideas on how some of these things may work. You may not need, I'll give you a perfect example real quick. When I started my tax business, I wanted to start a tax business, but everywhere I went, the rent was $1,500 a month, plus you had to get computers and systems, so I figured out to start one just like Jackson Hewitt and all of them will cost me $40,000. That's before I even did one tax return, $40,000 in a year. I didn't have that. So now most people would let that stop them. Oh, well, I can't do it. So no, what did I do? I said, okay, well, most people don't want to go to those tax places to be in their house doing it. So what if I just went to their house and did their taxes and performed door-to-door service? Now, instead of having all this, what do I have? I have gas, I have a laptop, I have a printer and some ink and some paper. So
right.
Instead of spending $40,000 to start that tax business, I started it with like $600.
Yeah.
So before it costs money, it does not cost money. Plan it out. Work with it so you can see what you actually truly need, and then you start moving forward. Second thing I would say is you got to be true to your heart. Don't do something just because it seems like it's popular. Or don't do something just because the next person is doing it. If it's going to be something that you're going to do, make sure that you're doing it from the heart. That way you can give the impeccable customer service, because you're going to need to do customer service. The problem now is people don't respect other people who are spending their money. People don't respect you enough to be on time to take that loss. Remember when the customer was always right? Customer's not always right anymore.
Right.
And if I'm not right, then it's going to be harder for you to get my money out of my pocket.
Right.
So let's be true to what we're doing and give other people some respect. Give them some respect. Let them have. Who cares what they're thinking behind, in the thoughts behind their eye? Who cares? Right now, give them the respect because they are a human being and they're shopping and they're spending their money. Give them the respect and make sure you're doing something out of love. Don't just throw something together. Don't just say, I'm going to have a cleaning business because I need some money, or I'm going to be a CNA because I need some money, and then you don't do the job correctly because that'll kill you every time.
Right.
And finally, what I would say is just do the work. A lot of times we get caught up and sidetracked on things that don't really matter. Things that ultimately next year you won't even remember. Do the work. Yes, you might have a couple of businesses over here that are cutting corners and doing curves and going around and not really doing it the right way. It doesn't matter. You do the work. You do the work that you're supposed to do. Yes, it might take you an extra hour to make sure that those utensils are spick and span clean. But do the work. Put in the correct amount of work because you will always reap the greatest reward if you stay true and you do the work. Don't let nobody talk you out of what's in your heart to do. Don't let them talk you out of it. Just because they can't see it doesn't mean that it's not to be seen. Just because they don't understand how it's going to all work out and they can't take that first step doesn't mean that it's not going to work out and that you can't take that first step and be successful. Right? Every new thing started with somebody saying, wow, this hasn't been done before.
Right.
Let me try it. And what do you think the people around them were saying, no matter who it was? Oh man, Amazon, you're gonna sell all this stuff from this store, this room right here? What are you, crazy? What, Uber? You're gonna give all these people a ride and you don't have no cars?
Right.
Everything started
right.
with something that wasn't there. So just stay true to yourself. Make sure that you don't get caught up over the money. Don't get caught up over people who are saying you can and can't do this and that and the other. Just do the work. Stay true, and you're gonna be all right. Stick in there. You're gonna get it done.
And Elliott says, just because they can't see it, don't mean it's not to be seen. Yeah, I know y'all are, like I said, they're thumbs up, amen in that here on our live channel on Spreaker Live and Facebook. So, listen, our guest today has been Mr. Elliott Eddy, author, speaker, real estate professional, innovator, and I could go on and on. Listen, he's a very busy man, but I want you to connect with him. How can people connect with you, Elliott, if they want to reach out, they want to learn a little bit more, maybe they've got questions? Like say, I know your time is limited, but if people just wanted to connect with you, what's the best way they can do that?
Oh, they can definitely email me. My email is ceo@eespeaks.com. ceo@eespeaks.com. You can come to either one of the websites, the entrepreneurboardgame.com or eespeaks.com, and you can send me a message through there to get right to me, and I respond to my messages very promptly. Shout out if you got some information, you got a question, just come on and talk with me. Let's build something. Let's build something together.
Yep, absolutely. And MYB, that information is going to be in the show notes. And so, Elliott, if you can make sure that you inbox me that or email me all your contact, and I'll make sure that those are in the show notes for everybody. So people that listen to the show in the future will be able to connect with you as they connect with this information. But listen, Elliott, I'm indebted to you, brother. Thank you so much for taking time out to join here on the Minding Your Business podcast. I appreciate it, and I want to have you back because I want you to be able to update people on what you got going and different things like that. You never know where that sparks opportunity.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate you so much for allowing me to come on the show and mix it up with you a little bit. Yeah. I love your show anyway. I've heard a bunch of them, so I appreciate you letting me be on.
Yeah, thank you so much, Elliott. I appreciate those kind words, brother. Listen, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Best to you personally and professionally, as well as to your family. And if I can be a resource, let me know.
Likewise. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Elliott.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, so that was Mr. Elliott Eddy, author, speaker, innovator, real estate professional. So these are the type of people that you got to connect with. When you're networking out here, you're growing your business, you got to connect with people. It's not about how they look. It's not about their background. It's not about, big, short, tall, any of that kind of thing. You want to be successful out here, you're going to have to network. Now, I know how y'all are. Ron, you got to be in the clique. What clique? What clique you talking about? Tell me which one you're talking about. I'll tell you if it's a clique. You're going to have to know people, and then just as importantly, people are going to have to know you. So you want to grow your business, and you want to get in business. You want to transition through the workforce, or you enjoy the workforce, and you want to be entrepreneur within your job, within the workforce that you're in. You're going to have to connect with people like that. And like you mentioned, he does a lot of reading, things like that. He has a lot of old school things that he's doing, that he's innovating. So find your lane with that. I invite you to connect with Elliott. It's going to be in the show notes, and I'll post it here online and that sort of thing. He and I are friends on Facebook, so if you go to my friends list, you'll find him. Elliott, thank you so much for, again, your time, brother, and those nuggets. It helps us all when you're willing to share in that manner. So in the spirit of what we're talking about, let me get into Ron's rundown real quick. All right, so for Ron's rundown, and you just heard Elliott talk some about this, but I want to get into this particular point a little bit because I want to be able to always provide you with good content and good information, MYB. And so something that I've seen lately that I want you to avoid and give you kind of a different play on this. When it comes to social media, particularly Facebook, one of the things that people tend to do, and this comes from the early days of Facebook, before the algorithms and all that type of thing, you would get information about posting around the groups. And, of course, we have the group, the Minding Your Business community on Facebook. I invite you to join. If you haven't already, send a request. We'll accept that, unless you look like you're not about your business, and then we won't accept it. But other than that, we'll accept you and invite you to join. But back in the day with Facebook, you would post around the groups. There was no algorithm that used mathematics to predict who would like your post and who would connect with your post, and Facebook routes people that way like they do today. So several years ago, in the early days of Facebook, one of the ways that you could create engagement was posting across groups. And so people would spam groups in the sense that they post their videos, they post their events, they post their business, they post what they've got going on, in sometimes multiple fashions and in cases the same post over and over again. And that's not always done with malicious intent. Sometimes that's done on accident if you press the button more than once and blah, 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 right? But one thing that I'll encourage you to do when you're younger or at any stage in your business, but when you're younger in your business, don't just go and just post across groups all day, every day, just posting the same message over and over again. That's spam, all right? And what you're going to do is you're going to alienate your potential patron, your potential customer, because all they get from you is spam, right? What you've got to do today, it's 2019, so we're not 2011 anymore. It's not 20. It's in the early days of social media. Social media is picking up some seasoning quick. And so you've got to be able to connect with people. What people always want to be able to do is give their opinion, and they want to know your story. They want to be able to believe in you. All right. Y'all listen to this podcast because I'm the one that's driving it. Right. And I have an obligation to provide you with the information that I believe will help you in your daily walk. And so that's what I want to do here with this today. So don't just post across groups. If you've got a flyer, you have an event coming up, right? Just like we've got Memphis Career Connects coming next Friday at 4 o'clock here at the Tower Room in Clark Tower. for those that are in Memphis, Tennessee. And this is helping people with their career, myself and Scott Kinney, co-founder. But if you're going to post your flyer and things like that, you got to connect with people. Connect with people, meaning that ask them questions, learn what their pain points are and what they're seeking, right? Don't just because you've got a great idea. If it's all about you, then just post it to you. Like you can change the setting, I think, in Facebook to only you. That's how you need to post. Post only to you if it's only about you. All right? When you're posting across groups, there's nothing wrong with that. Don't do it every day, 2 and 3 times a day with the same post. Don't do it every other day. And what you want to do is go to that group and engage in what's going on and what other people have going on so that you can build, again, this network. People are seeing you, and then people are going to want to know what you've got going. So then you've got what? Demand. All right? So when you just go around to these groups and you're just posting, come to my event, come to my event, come to my event. Nobody knows really. They may know you, but they don't know your connection to it. What's your tie? What's your story? Why did you come up with this? Why is it important? Why should it be important to me? You're not answering any questions. You're just saying, well, they know me and I know them, so I'm just going to share this Facebook invite, or I'm just going to share this flyer. And what I'm recommending, right, is that when you're going across groups or your own page or whatever it is, connect with people. Ask them questions. Engage, post something, in a group that's thought-provoking, or post an article and get people's opinions on it, right? And as you're going through that, then you're able to share, here's what I do to help people, right? Would you love to hear a little bit more about what I'm doing? I'd love to hear more about what you're doing, and maybe there's some collaborative lanes that we can explore. That's what you've got to do. So if you got your event or your business and stuff coming up, if all you do is just hit people in the mouth with it, they go back up. Because again, people are hit with advertising all day long. It's 2019, folks. No, it's not 1952. You know what I mean? It's 2019. People are hit with stuff all day long. So what I recommend, again, don't spam the group, just like NYB community. Don't spam that group, but share your information and then share your story. What's your why behind it? You heard Elliott talk about getting into speaking. You want to be a speaker? What's your why? You can't just speak about technology because you like what somebody on YouTube said. What's your connection to technology? How has it benefited you? What have you learned? What has been your failures, your successes, your joys? Share that with people because that's going to endear you and connect you to the people. People buy from who they like and who they trust. And then the third kind of piece of that is the value. But if they like and they trust you, they're more apt to buy from you. Right? But they're not going to do that if you're just out spamming. So don't just spam. That comes off like a hobbyist. Right? You're a business owner. You're an entrepreneur. You're a working professional. So share the story behind it. How did it come about? What have you gone through? What do you continue to go through? What's your next step? And let your audience share that with you. Let them share with you their pain point, where their opportunity is. And so don't just get into this, rut in terms of just posting back and forth, or you're on Instagram and you're tagging 100 people and don't do that every day, right? Do what you want to do, but I'm just giving a recommendation of you've got to connect people to your background. Why you? You want to talk about whatever you want to talk about, but why you? I'm on here, this particular podcast, I'm not academic. So I'm not NPR. I'm not going to tell you about anything I haven't done or seen done. So I don't have any episodes or anything. I don't get on here talking about things that I read, or things I just conjure up. I share with you exactly what I've done, what I've been through. And I have guests on here that do the same. And we do it raw. There's no editing. I'm not splicing nothing out. I don't take out the imperfections, because you don't do that in business. Like we talked about speaking. When you're up speaking, you don't get to edit. You can edit the video, someone videoing it after the fact. But once you put it out there, it's out there. So there's no editing to it. It's all real. It's all raw. It's authentic. That's how I come. That's how the people I have on here come. So be that in your social media life with your business, and I think you'll find much more success with what you're trying to do, because you have a goal of what you're trying to accomplish. Your goal wasn't just to post it. Your goal is to get what? Engagement. So then you got to engage to get engagement. You know what I mean? What do y'all think this is? You got to engage to get engagement. And it can't always be all about you. Get around here, participate in other conversations and dialogues that are going on. And again, that's going to connect you to the next opportunity. It takes a little bit of time, yes. But it's better than just posting around the groups with no engagement, and then people get tired of that antic. And so then when you come with something else, they're on guard for you. They're standing there at the gate. They already got the gun up pointed at you, because they're on guard with you. Y'all, here they come again. And you don't want to be that person, that guy or girl. So I hope this has helped you today. Thank you again to Elliott Eddie for joining today as our special guest. Thank all of you. Thank Spreaker.com. Thank Facebook Live. Thank everybody that's listening to this particular podcast. This is episode 92 of the Minding Your Business podcast. Entrepreneurship, real estate, trending news. There's no business like minding your own. Share this. Make sure you subscribe to the mailing list on the Binge Podcast Network. That's onabinge.com. Make sure you go get the Entrepreneur Game, entrepreneurboardgame.com. Connect with Elliott, eespeaks.com. Email him, CEO, eespeaks. CEO, eespeaks. Yeah, make sure you get with him on that particular email. It's Friday, May the 3rd. We're into the 5th month of 2019 already, man. It's crazy. It's crazy how fast this year is going. A lot of things going on. We're going to be back with you next week on next Friday. Listen, just go be great personally and professionally. Do something for somebody that can't give back to you. And I appreciate you all. If I can be a resource, Ron at themybpodcast.com, at Champ Ron, champ_Ron on Instagram, Twitter. But let's connect. Don't forget, Memphis Career Connects, 4 p.m. at Clark Tower, the Tower Room, 33rd floor. Come. Let's have a drink. Let's help your career, whether your career is in entrepreneurship or in the workforce. You're in career transition, whatever it is. Come out. Let Scott and I help you and be resources for you. Champ Ron, the Minding Your Business podcast.
What we do here is go back.